That is 10 in a row if you're counting at home. Another big win for the Eagles, Reuben.
If they're counting at home, why do you have to tell them? They would already know because they're counting at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, longest winning streak in Eagles history, which is kind of a little surprising that they never won more than 9 games, some really good years, but, it just speaks to the consistency and their ability to win in different ways, and, the roster, the coaching, it's been quite a stretch, and this was a big win. I thought that and the Steelers are good, and obviously, they really miss Pickens. They don't have a lot of weapons without him, but I just thought this was top to bottom, just a really tremendous performance by the Eagles over a good team that's been rolling. They'd won 7 out of 8. They're dangerous, they're physical, they're tough. Um, Eagles out-toughed them. They outplayed them, and it would have been look, if it hadn't been for those 2 turnovers, early, thing could have really gotten and look, they could have scored at the end if they won. I mean, this could have been a lot worse than it was. They really controlled the game. They controlled the clock for 40 minutes, even though they didn't run that well. They did a lot of things really well today.
They did. Eagles win 27-13 over the Steelers. They're now 12-2. This is the Eagle Eye podcast. We're presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Rube, a lot to get into. You mentioned a record winning streak now, 10 games. But this was a little different this game. They had to pass the football in order to win this one. For the most part, I thought the Steelers did a pretty good job against Saquon and the Eagles running game. And we were kind of waiting for this game to come, especially after last week and all the talk and the drama that got kicked off by the inefficiency in the passing game. They needed it today, and it worked.
Yeah, and you can tell right from the get-go that was the plan, and it makes sense. The Steelers, they're banged up in the secondary. They're an elite run defense. You can throw on them, and on the one hand, you're like, well, the Eagles should believe they can run on anyone, and I think they do. But I think when you have that disparity that you can throw on them, you do it. And right from that first drive, I mean, Jalen was sharp. He was firing down the field. Calcaterra for 22 yards on the first play, and then a 21-yarder to Devontae. Just in the first half, Jalen had like 6 passes of 16 or more yards. I mean, he was firing down the field. He was getting rid of the ball quick. He all the things, something special about Jalen, like whenever there's something in his game that he wants to work on, he works on it and it gets better. It was the interceptions earlier in the year, and he took care of that. It was fumbles. He did have a fumble today, but for the most part, he's gotten a lot better with ball security, and he got rid of the ball quick today. He was decisive, and his eyes were down the field. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good Jalen Hurts day. Let's see the final stat line here: 25 of 32, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a passer rating of 125.3. Also had 45 yards on the ground, had a 23-yarder. It was actually the Eagles' longest run of the day. Yeah, it was just a really good day for him. The only little blip was the fumble, and the defense was good enough that it didn't really kill them. So
Yeah, defense was really stout, I mean, especially on Cooper DeJean's fumble. We'll get into that, but defense was incredible today as well, I thought. But as far as Jalen, uh, you know, people are like asking like this, can he win a game? Can he be that quarterback that wins a game by throwing? Like, I mean, he's been in the league a long time and won a lot of games like that. So there was never any doubt that he could do it. It was just a matter of, and look, he's got great receivers. I think it was a matter of him really focusing on unloading the ball quickly. And Kellen, I thought did a great job. I thought it was one of Kellen's best games, mixing it up. They still ran the ball 42 times, and they couldn't run it. They couldn't run it at all, and they still ran it 42 times. And Kellen just got Jalen in a rhythm early, and I think Jalen was able to build on that. And that first drive was all passing, and he just looked comfortable at
it
that.
came out in empty. Like
Came out, I think, first 3 plays in empty,
Mhm.
I believe. And that's, hey, we know we're gonna have to throw to win this game, and we're gonna do it, and they did it.
Yeah, it was impressive. 23 combined targets for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. AJ had 11 targets, 8 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 12 targets, 11 catches, 109 yards,
Almost identical
and a
lines.
touchdown. Yeah, really almost identical. AJ has that 1 yard advantage on him, but both of those guys just had really big games.
I was especially impressed with Devontae, and I think it's so important. This is his best game of the year, career high in catches. I was so impressed with how physical he is. Like, we know AJ is he's a big, strong, tough guy and gets those yards after the catch. I mean, Devontae was just trampling people that outweigh him by 30 yards, and, it was one of the I mean, he's had some games with a lot of yards, but I was just really impressed with him with the ball in his hands and how physical he was. I think with a team like the Steelers, you really have to match their physicality, and that's not just the defense, that's everybody.
I think the Eagles will tell you the Steelers have to match their
Yeah,
physicality.
that's what Nick would say.
Mhm.
Someone made the mistake of asking Nick that, but, yeah, it's important to have to to meet them head on, let's say that, in that area, and they did that, and that's everybody, and Devontae was really good, and, man, he just you don't see what do they list him at, like, 170?
Mhm.
Do you think he's 170? Might not even be 170, but to see him taking on corners and safeties and fighting for extra yards is really cool to watch.
Yeah, he's a really physical, tough player,
Yeah,
and he always has been.
yeah,
I think he surprises some people, like
yeah,
defensive backs. So he'll try to bowl you over,
yeah,
and you don't expect it, and then he's pretty powerful.
yeah. Good stuff from both of them, and, um, they were the only receivers to catch pass. It's alright. They're really good.
Yeah, I think Johnny Wilson had one target, couldn't haul it in. Grant Calcaterra had that 22-yard catch on the first play, didn't have another one.
Didn't
Uh,
have another target.
yeah, Kenny Gainwell had a nice game,
Yes, he did.
3 catches for 40
We'll be
yards.
talking about him the entire second part of the
All of those plays on third downs, big conversions,
yeah.
and in a game where Saquon was a little banged up, he didn't
Gainwell
wanna.
had 10 touchdowns, 10 touches and 4 first downs,
You're
4
trying to give
third
him
down
10 touchdowns
conversions.
in this game, aren't
I
you?
know.
Yeah,
He had 4 third down conversions
yeah.
out of 10 touches and 60 yards. He's a valuable guy, and, we joke about it, and I'm a big Kenny Gainwell fan, but, I don't think it's an easy role. Like, against the Ravens, he didn't have a touch.
Mhm.
He doesn't know if he's gonna have 1 or 10 or none or 15. Probably won't be 15, but I think it's really hard to always be ready and always answer the call and always prepare as if you're gonna have a big role, not knowing if you will, and then when you get a chance to come up big, that play he had down on that 3rd and 9, that 14-yard catch and run, man, that was really impressive. Through traffic, broke a couple tackles, little he does has that spin move.
Used
Um,
earlier in the game, yeah.
yeah, that was a huge play, I mean, on that last drive, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Valuable guy, and
Lane Johnson told me he thinks Kenny is the most underrated player on the team.
he told me that, when I did that Gainwell story a few weeks ago. Yeah, he was on the couch and I was talking to him, and he said that. Yeah, I think it's true. Either maybe him or Milton Williams.
Mhm.
Um, that would be a fun, segment we could do sometime, 5 most underrated players. But yeah, Gainwell, had a big role on a day where, nobody else was really catching the ball. He had some big catch and runs. Offense, what offense, they had over 400 yards. Get this, Dave. The Eagles outgained the Steelers by 260 238 yards, I believe if my math is right. 238. It's the biggest yardage margin against the Steelers since Mike Tomlin's been their coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, since 1998, actually. A game against the Bengals, and former Eagle Jeff Blake threw for 367 yards. But the Steelers don't get beat up like this. They just don't. I mean, they're always good. They always have a winning record. They rarely get. This wasn't a blowout, 14 points. It could have been easily. They could have easily punched it in at the end, but um, they really pushed the Steelers around. That was it was impressive stuff. It was a big win. That was the biggest win of the year for me.
I would still give it to the Ravens game, but yeah, this is a big one. No
Yeah,
question about it. They now sweep the AFC North.
yeah,
Some good teams in that division.
yeah. So do they win the AFC North? They get in the playoffs that way?
I don't think that's how that
Make the
works.
AFC playoffs
But
as
we
well.
should mention, as we're talking about
Yeah,
seeding, Buffalo beat Detroit today, which is, that you still need the Lions to lose another game.
yeah,
But I mean, that was a big one. If the Lions beat Buffalo, your odds of getting that one seed aren't very good.
yeah, and, crazy. I mean, the Bills getting those 48, 42 games all the time, don't they? Um, the Lions finished with the Bears in Chicago, a week from today, and then Monday night at San Francisco. I don't know. I mean, the 49ers are, they're a weird team.
Kind of a train wreck of a
Yeah.
team.
Um, but out there, who knows? Yeah, so I still think the Lions will probably get that number 1 seed, but it's certainly a lot more interesting now.
Yeah, and this is like it's good for them, for us at least, for the Eagles to have a reason to play this slate out. Because
Yeah,
they're probably going to end up in the 2 seed, and we know that, but it's more entertaining if they have a chance at the 1.
absolutely, and we were saying, or I was saying on postgame that for Saquon chasing Dickerson, it's probably good that the Lions won
Hmm.
because it makes it a better chance the Giants game will mean something.
Yeah. Saquon, by the way, 19 carries, 65 yards, 3.4 average. He also had 2 catches for 9 yards. It wasn't his best game. It looked like he was going through a little something. He didn't want to say what the injury was. It looked like he was like stretching out his hip a little
Yeah,
bit, like a groin or a hip, something like that. Um, doesn't seem like it's anything serious, but we'll keep an eye on him throughout this week. A few other injuries on offense. Tyler Steen had to go in the game for Landon Dickerson at left guard, and then Mekhi Becton had to come out for a few plays at right guard. He went back in.
yeah, and I think Lane ended up just missing 1 play.
Yeah, Lane was fine.
Yeah, I don't know if they were checking him for a concussion, um, but when he he got up, I saw one of the refs, like, pointed to his head, like, to check him out, um, but man, that was a great battle between him and Watt.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah,
And I mean, Lane is so good.
he's so good.
Like we don't talk about him enough. And it's DJ Watt's one of the best players in the league.
Ever. He's one of the best pass rushers ever.
Yeah, he's really good. He ended up having 2 sacks in this game. They really minimized his impact, I thought. And the
I
one
thought so.
sack, like Lane got him wide, and Jalen probably should have stepped up there, and he ended up.
Yeah,
But TJ's everywhere. I mean, he forces that fumble on Jalen Hurts. He attacks the football. This
he
is something
does.
we talked about in the lead up to this game. This is sixth forced fumble this year. He's always punching at the ball. And that was a bad play. I mean, but you kind of give credit to Watt in that situation too.
Yeah, and Jalen should know better. I mean, because they made a point of emphasis all week.
He also has that the cast on the left ring finger. He talked about that. He said it did impact him. It's definitely impacted him on the tush push brotherly shove play. He wasn't able. It didn't look like he was like stretching the ball out. He was
Yeah,
kind of keeping it tucked and plowing through that way. So something to watch there. Like I think that is something, like it's not going to affect him throwing. Obviously,
right.
it's his left hand, but in terms of like holding the football, especially in the pocket, on the running plays, like it could affect his ball security a little bit.
Yeah, something to keep an eye out
Mm.
on. Keep an eye out on
Keep an eye on, I think is
that
what
too,
you're going for there.
or keep an eye out.
That last possession was unreal.
Let's talk about that.
10 and a half minutes. It was 10 minutes and 29 seconds.
That's 18% of the game was on that drive.
There was a moment where I'm like, when did they get the ball? 10:29, 21 plays, 99 yards, because there were 11 penalty yards in there. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like
And
in a game where they weren't even running the football that well, to then bleed the clock like that and just to make it game over was really impressive.
and it wasn't all running. I mean, Jalen was 5 for 7 on that drive,
Mhm.
and with 3 first down completions and then keeper on 4th down, the 1 third down they didn't get. I'm sure you looked up, it's their longest drive
Yeah.
since, yeah, I don't even have to. So Stat had started the NFL didn't used to track
Mhm.
drive info. They didn't track a lot of things like first down conversions by run or by pass, um, relatively new, but yeah, drive chart goes back to 2001. If you look at the game books from before that, there's no drive chart. They didn't keep track of it, which is crazy. But since 2001, their most plays in a drive and their 3rd longest drive as far as time. But more interesting for me, it's the longest drive since 2001 by any team to run out the clock at the end of a game.
Mm.
10 and a half minutes. It was a thing of beauty. And, Nick and the offensive coaches like that drive as much as any scoring drive. And they could have scored if they wanted to. They could have made the final score, uh, you know, look, they could have scored 34 easily. They probably could have, if they hadn't fumbled. But anyway, um, Nick has too much respect for Mike Tomlin to. I just realized the 2 coaches, the Eagles they were thinking about the Bills, Sean McDermott, Mike Tomlin, Steelers. So those are the 2 like pivotal coaches that they were watching their result, and they were teammates. They played in the secondary together, William and Mary.
Okay.
It just doesn't really. I don't know what I'm talking about. But, offense, anything else on the offense? Um,
Ended up with 401 yards in this one.
which is crazy because like, they didn't run the ball that well. They averaged 3.1 yards a carry. Only 2 guys really had any receiving yard. It's just they just were relentless offensively, I thought, and the yards just kept adding up.
Yep, 26 first downs. Steelers had just 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really was a dominant performance, and it didn't look that way in the scorebook going into halftime. They're up by 4 points, but
Yeah.
this is one of those games where it just felt like the Eagles are doing what they want. The Steelers can't stop them, and the Eagles defense had their way too. So, uh, not surprised that they were able to just get a lead early in the second half and then just
Yeah.
play keep away for a lot of that second half. It was really impressive stuff.
It really was.
And like,
They I
let's
mean, they shut out the Steelers in the second. I know they don't have Pickens, but, I mean, they shut them out the second half. It's good stuff.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the passing offense because it was obviously the big topic. It was a week ago. I'm in that same locker room where AJ says passing, where Devontae is upset about it. Some offensive linemen are upset about it. Jalen Hurts admits it wasn't good enough, and Hurts said after the game they spent this week. They kind of knew the game plan had to be different. They had to focus on throwing the football, and they were able to do that. And he kind of had a metaphor for it. He said they've been watering one part of their game, which was basically running the ball, play action off the run, uh, and they were kind of neglecting watering the other part of it. So it really does matter because teams see how effective they are running the ball. They're gonna and you saw that in today's game. Pittsburgh always kind of letting a safety creep up in the box, and when teams do that, you have to make them pay. And I think it's important that they put that on tape. Now, a lot of players are telling me it's just important they prove it to themselves, but I think it's a big deal that teams pick your poison because this is the way it's designed. But until you show it, it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
Until you actually show that you can win both ways, and they did that today. And I think that's a really big deal when we're talking about this team reaching its ceiling, which is a Super Bowl victory. That's what this team is shooting for, and I think a game like this tells you how dangerous they can be in the playoffs.
Yeah, well said. Um, I wonder if the whole Saquon going after Dickerson, I don't wanna say a distraction as far as, like, I mean, but I wonder if I really wonder if it I mean, that became like the identity of the team that we're a running team, we're just gonna run, we're always run, we're really good at it, setting records. Yeah, it just seemed like it came at the expense of the passing game a little bit.
Yeah, and it was kind of the theory I think I floated on one of the pods that their success running the ball could have possibly stunted the growth in the passing game. And it's not like anyone was blaming them
Yeah,
for running. It's like
yeah,
you have the best running back in the league, the best offensive line in the league, and it works. You should do it. But we also knew that when the passing offense gets its chances, it has to be more efficient. That was a problem last week
yeah,
against the Panthers, and it wasn't like it was a year-long problem. I
right.
think I didn't want to overblow that part of it. It was one really bad game, but it was a game where they needed the passing offense to show up and it didn't. So then it kind of sparked everything else that the week had in store for us. And today was good. And Devontae Smith said it comes down to being able to have difficult conversations and critical conversations with each other. And he said they've always had that and been able to do that, but in a week like this where they really did need to correct stuff, it paid off.
Yeah, Jalen was asked about those conversations, would he like to expound on them, and he said,
No.
"No, not gonna happen." Jalen in that one quote where he talked about watering he used, like, 3 metaphors in that one quote, it was a beautiful thing. Just metaphor after metaphor after metaphor. He's,
AJ Brown said that him and Jalen made sure to have that celebration ready to shut everyone up, prove to
such
everyone that they're good.
yeah. By the way, the media did not start this. BG started it, and then AJ started it by just saying, "Passing." He started it, and then BG watered it, and I mean, this was not a media creation, and don't let them tell you it was because now, it's I remember Phil Anastasia used to say, like, every controversy a team has, like 2 guys screaming at each other, a contract, an agent, and a front office, bickering about something, it always ends up with the main parties blaming the media.
Mhm. And look, that's fine. Like
That's
if
fine,
that
I don't
helps
care.
them, I think they did have kind of a us versus them
Absolutely.
type thing. And look, that's a good hit to play.
Sure.
Sometimes that really works.
Yeah.
At practice on Friday, they're playing My Prerogative, and like
Bobby Brown?
maybe, yeah. But you know the song.
Yeah.
Uh, then it was not like not very subtle, right? But that's fine. If it
How
works,
do
it
I know
works.
that?
And then during the week on Wednesday, they
Proud of
had the
myself.
team meeting. Uh, AJ, Jalen, Brandon Graham put it all out there in the open. Brandon apologized to the team for being a distraction, apologized to each of those guys individually. Uh, like I, Nick said it at the end of his press conference, like he's not going to lie to you and tell you that was a good thing to happen. But I really was impressed with how they handled all of it
Yeah,
because
same.
at the very least, we talked about it on Tuesday's pod. It was at the very least, it was a distraction. And maybe this is where we play our role because like we have to ask them about it, and maybe they don't want to answer those questions, but it's kind of important for
Yeah.
us to ask it. So, like at the very least, it was a distraction. And I mean, from Nick to Jalen and AJ and even Brandon after his initial unforced error, I thought they all handled it really well.
Yeah, and I think they had put it behind them by Tuesday where
Well, they had the meeting on Wednesday morning.
meeting was Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking,
Mhm.
Wednesday. But it kinda lingered, the questions kinda lingered throughout the week, which, I mean, it's gonna happen, and they have to understand that, but I don't really care who they blame, but, yeah, it's the old circle the wagons mentality. It works.
Yeah, it works. Lane Johnson's quote on it. He was asked about the drama. For me, it's like I'm gonna skip the Real Housewives of effing Philadelphia. I'm gonna go to something else. I've been part of it. The way I see it, brothers fight sometimes. We put a lot into this. Emotions are on high.
Yeah, we ran that interview on postgame, it was great. Lane's a trip, man.
Mhm.
He's he's such an important guy in this team, without Kelsey, Fletcher, and BG, like, he's the last guy standing out of the old guard, and he's so
Oh, he's a
wise.
tackle.
That's good. So he's just so wise. He's seen it all. Um, yeah. So, yeah.
He talked about. He's like, my week was just worrying about 90.
Yeah,
He had a lot to worry about.
he sure did.
By the way, apparently TJ Watt said he's okay.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, it was a scary looking injury.
Yeah,
Apparently, he just rolled his ankle. X-rays came back negative.
good.
So
Incredible player.
yeah, really fun to watch. Probably maybe wasn't fun for Eagles fans to watch him today, but he's excellent.
Yeah. Um, Lane really battled and did a great job. I mean, 99% of the snaps. I
Yeah.
guess it probably, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Don't go math on me now. But yeah, it was good stuff.
Uh,
It's kind of like, Runyon, Strahan type, you know, just obviously they're in different, they were in the same division. So, but that kind of battle.
yeah, it was really fun. Uh, Mike Tomlin did a really weird thing in this game. This is
You talking about declining that penalty?
yeah.
What was that all
What the heck
about?
was he doing?
He would have had a first and 30.
Back him up.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah, it was really weird.
And then he converted. I think it was a pass to
Yeah,
Devontae.
the very next play.
I don't know what he was
That was
thinking.
strange, right?
Yeah.
And that was at a point where Tyler Steen ended up getting called for 2 holds on the first drive, and then I think he settled in a little bit.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that was odd. It was first and 20, it was a holding, and why would you decline that?
Yeah, I don't know, it was weird.
I wonder if he was asked about that post game because that made no sense.
Yeah. Anything offensively that we have not talked about that we need to?
No, I don't think so.
We mentioned it, but like a really good Jalen game. Just one
Yeah,
of his best games of the season.
it might have been his best game of the
Yeah,
season.
yeah. And like not just the throws. The throws were obviously good. He was trusting his guys, but he was making the right decisions on some of the RPO game. Like everything he was doing in this game, it was working.
Yeah, and he had a couple nice runs. I think he had 3 rushing first downs, 3 or 4. He had the one long run. He's never looked this fast this late in the year,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and that's another weapon. And, he's not the runner he used to be, but he had like 60 some odd yards last week, 40 some odd, and the kneel downs hurt his average, but, um, he just looks fast, and he looks like like he's dangerous running the ball late in the year, which is really, it's just another way they can hurt you.
Ended up with 15 rushing attempts.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
yeah,
Not a lot, like the kneel downs, the touch pushes, but
yeah,
it's just like a big number to look at.
it is.
It's got to be his highest of the year, right?
Yeah, it has
Yeah,
to
it
be.
is.
He had a couple high
13,
numbers last year.
14. Yeah.
Remember early last year, you had those,
Mhm.
like 17, 18.
Yeah. Good game from Jalen. It's the type of game that I think like everyone kind of needed. Like they could sit there and tell you everything's fine, but it was a good game to go out and show it against a good defense. And I know they're not great against the pass, but they're a tough defense. They can beat you up front, and they have some decent players in the back seven. So it's not like you're playing. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick's a really good player. Joey Porter's
He's
like
not what he used to be, is he?
I don't
Minka.
know. Joey Porter's like an okay corner.
And Jalen's put himself. I mean, he's got a body of work here now. I mean, his numbers during the 10-game winning streak are really good. I figured him out, but just for the season, he's at 69%, 18 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, passer rating of 104, which I believe would break Nick Foles' single season record, and he's got 14 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he's got 32 touchdowns. It's a lot of
It's a lot
touchdowns.
of touchdowns.
Even when he's been bad, he hasn't been that bad. Like he hasn't had like a 3 interception game. When he's been bad, it's been like he's missing guys, but he's not turning the ball over.
Yeah.
So
At least not in this win streak.
yeah, that's what I mean. In this 10-game winning streak, I guess today would have been his 3rd turnover in that stretch
Mhm.
because I think they have 5 as a team, 2 of them today. I think one was Saquon fumble, and then the Cooper fumble, obviously. But yeah, a lot of good stuff from the offense. Anytime you get 400 yards against any Steelers defense, that's a big W.
Yeah, feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we'll talk defense, special teams, and maybe a look ahead to the Commanders.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
All right, we're back on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan, Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro. Reuben, this defense is really good. And look, I know that offense isn't super high powered, but they have some good players, even without George Pickens. And for the most part, Eagles defense just shut them down.
Yeah, and they do have a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback and a 3-time 1,000-yard rusher. I mean, so I just thought the defense was tremendous. Um, there's a lot to like about it, and they didn't have any interceptions again. Only had 2 sacks, but they're just so sound. They tackle, they're in position, they cover. Um, the Steelers didn't have a run longer than I believe 8 yards, was it? The longest rushing attempt was an 8-yarder. Um, I mean, you go right down the line. You mentioned earlier, Steelers just had 10 first downs. They had 163 net yards. They averaged just over 4 yards a play. I don't even know, they were 3 for 10 on 3rd down. They just never really got anything going. And this defense has now held 10 straight teams to 20 or fewer points. They just don't
It's
give up.
amazing.
Yeah, just don't give up points. The 20 was the Bengals who, they score 40 every week and lose. Um, and it's just everybody. It's like you look at the starting lineup, like every single person contributed. Blankenship really hurt them with that awful, egregious personal foul.
What's he supposed to do?
No, nothing. He
I
did
mean,
exactly what he's supposed to do.
that was bad.
That was terrible. Yeah, but anyway,
And that was their one touchdown drive.
yes.
And it aided them quite a bit.
Yeah, it got him down to
And
the
then CJ
30.
Gardner-Johnson probably should have just tried to tip that ball away. He tried to
He's
like
trying to
grab it.
intercept it.
Yeah, I could see why.
Yeah.
Like he almost had it.
Yeah, he did.
And maybe against like a smaller player that like Frymouth is big, so
He's got strong hands.
tight end.
Yeah, he did.
Like maybe if you're doing that to a little receiver, you're able to yank it away from him.
But the Blankenship penalty got them down to the 30.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a 15-yard pay. You're giving 15 free yards for what? For tackling a guy. That was a terrible, terrible call. But it all worked out. I got to give Slay props. I thought the play of the game was that fumble recovery. Now the fumble, it's not like they forced it.
Yeah.
He just dropped the pitch, but Slay it was really heads up. There was a crowd there. The ball bounced.
And he again had to fight through an injury in this game to come back.
Yeah, he's been banged up every game. But that was, to me, you talk about complimentary football. I mean, they were inside the 30 there.
Yeah.
And it was a 7-point game. So they're driving to tie the game. Eagles get the ball and they drive down and score, and it's 27-13, just like that. That's complimentary football, and you love to see that, and they did that really well today.
Yeah, I think the thing that impressed me most about the defense is they kept getting put in these like really tough situations. The two turnovers, obviously, especially the Cooper DeJean one,
Yeah,
the
11-yard
on the
line.
punt. I mean, yeah, they're in a tough spot, and they don't let him in the end zone. And then also there was a 29-yard punt. Brady Man had just a bad punt, which is rare to see. But like three situations where they're kind of put in tough spots, and the Steelers got 6 points off of them.
Yeah, it was impressive stuff, and it's just been a string of I mean, the defense has really been like, the offense has been good most of the time. It's been great on occasion. It's been not so good a couple times, but the defense is just they just don't have bad they haven't had a bad game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's the like, I'm saying since the bye week, obviously Tampa,
Mhm.
but, you know, was their worst game since the bye. I mean, even Jacksonville scored 23, but only 15 on the defense. Um, I mean, I don't know. The Rams, but they just have been so good. Anybody in particular you like to single out on defense that you were particularly impressed with today? Because they play such team defense.
Yeah, Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
Nolan had a nice game.
Yeah, I thought he had his best game.
Yeah, he ended up with 4 tackles, the sack, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup. But he tipped the ball at the
Yeah.
line. Just a really good game from him. He's up to 5.5 sacks.
All during the 10-game winning
Mhm.
streak.
Yeah, he's playing really well. Obviously, a starter, playing well throughout this whole stretch. And then Josh Sweat had another sack, just 2 sacks, but 2 big ones. Sweat's now up to 8 on the year.
Second most of his career,
Mhm.
7-year career. So, yeah, um, I was gonna say Nolan as well. I was really impressed. Boy, he plays hard.
He always plays hard, and that was, like, the one thing even if he never became a great player, you can use a Nolan Smith
Yeah.
because of the effort he plays with. He's TJ Watt has a little bit of that, and he has obviously, he's an incredible player, but he plays with that kinda energy,
Yeah.
like, he's making tackles downfield. You see that with Nolan, like, you see him working his way back to the football
Yep.
all the time. You'll see him, like I see 15 yards downfield, not in this game, there weren't that many plays downfield, but sometimes you see Nolan, like, 15 yards downfield making a tackle. It's just the hustle.
Yeah. No, that's true, and, he can run, he can cover, so he works his way back into plays that he's not even in, which is a cool thing to see. Um, I could see him being a double-digit sack guy next year. I mean, he won't get there this year, he's got 3 games left. Maybe he'll get to 7, which would be a good number. Um, I could really see him being and look, we don't know if Sweat's gonna even be here, so, they could really need that. I mean, their edges might be Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith. Um, you hope Sweat's here, but, yeah, I was impressed with him.
Nakobe had 10 tackles, led the team, also had that forced fumble. He's playing, he has an elbow injury, he has a big brace on his right elbow. Didn't look like it affected him.
No. No, both linebackers have been so good. Um, Vaughn had the flea flicker.
He ended up recovering, like he was in a good
Yeah,
position.
yeah, it was. That was really their only play of the game. That was their only play longer than 17 yards
Yeah.
in the game, I believe. Yeah, it was. Um, yeah, there's no weak link on the defense, and that's what you love, and that's why, like, you sit here and, like, who are the stars? I mean, Jalen Carter's a star. I guess Zach Bond is certainly a Pro Bowler, but it's not I mean,
He's
they
actually leading the NFC in fan voting
yeah,
at
that's good for
linebacker.
him,
Yeah.
and so deserving, and it's tough to get noticed sometimes for a guy like him who
I got a chance to talk to him after the game, by the
yeah.
way, just about like I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you
No,
off,
no, go
but
ahead.
about the like the situations the defense gets put in. And I was like, obviously, like you don't want to be in those positions, but you kind of like embrace and relish those opportunities. And he said, like, yeah, like we want to be able to show off and what we can do in those moments. And I think like they just don't view it as like they're in a bad spot. Some defenses like, we're put out here on the 11-yard line, we're probably going to give up a touchdown. They don't look at it like that, man.
Yeah,
They're thinking they're going to stop them, and they've been right most of the time.
yeah. That red zone stop was tremendous, holding them to a field goal there. Um, they're really good in the red zone. They have been all year. Well, during the streak.
Mhm. Uh, let's talk about some of the weird stuff in this game. The Slay fight.
Yeah.
Darnell Washington just like blocked him. It was a lot. It was a crazy play, especially against a player like Slay, who like isn't going back and forth. He's not jawing with you. He's not like
Right.
being disrespectful. So, like, it's one thing to block him, but like to continue to block through the back of the end zone and like pin him, like you're a giant. You're Darnell Washington's what,
Oh,
like
yeah.
280?
Yeah. Gotta be 275. I don't know.
Listen at 264. He's huge,
Yeah.
6'7", 264. Like you're picking on a corner. But you know what I did love? Well, I'm sure you saw it too. Quinyon Mitchell.
Oh, man. I'm surprised he didn't get a personal foul.
It would have been worth it.
Yeah.
It would have been worth it. He was protecting his guy. You like to see that.
Yeah.
And I
That
mean, Slay should have been thrown out of the game probably.
probably.
I think the refs just viewed it and they like understood where he was coming from. He was swinging.
Yeah. I was shocked they didn't call offsetting personal fouls.
Yeah, the
They
fact that they
do that
called 2
99%
penalties.
of the
Yeah.
time. But it was egregious. But like it's like if a guy's standing there and a guy punches him and he falls to the ground, they call both guys for personal fouls 99% of the time, which is stupid. If they offset, you can have this riot out there and it just always ends up with offsetting penalties. But yeah, that was really cool to see.
Interest.
Quinyon
Yeah.
was fired up.
Yeah, that's good. I
Yeah,
like that, man.
I'm sure
Like,
Slade loves that.
yeah, I'm sure like that's you gain some respect
Sure.
in the locker room for something like
He's
that.
feisty.
Yeah, Zach Berman is a pool reporter. He talked with referee Alan Eck about that and why Eagles were penalized and said that they didn't view any punches. They didn't see any punches being thrown. I don't know how they didn't see them, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then the other thing, Jalen Carter's be smarter than that.
Yeah.
And I think they showed it on TV, Nick was kind of going after him. Nick Sirianni was kind of going after Jalen Carter a little bit, which you understand. Then Clint Hurt kind of got in the way, and then a little bit later, Jalen kind of sidled up to Nick, and they hugged it out. They're good, but that's a dumb play, and they're lucky it didn't cost them.
I think Jalen was just thinking, we're backed up here. If I get a personal foul, it's only gonna be 3 yards.
Well,
But yeah, you can't
at
do that.
first you thought it was going to be a first down. I
Yes.
mean, that would have been a big mistake, and
Sure.
he's got to keep his cool.
Yeah, and he's done this before, and you love his enthusiasm and his edge. He plays on the edge, but you gotta be smarter about it.
It was funny. I didn't see it live on the play. I was like, what did he even do? Then they showed it. I was like, all right, yeah, you can't do that.
No.
You can't punch somebody in the face.
No, you really can't.
Yeah. I thought he played well other than that.
Yeah, he always does.
Yeah. You know what I really like about his game this year? He's been really good at when he knows he's not getting to the quarterback, throwing a paw up and getting a batted pass. The
Yeah.
Eagles in general have been good at that
Yeah.
this year.
The one you mentioned, the one Nolan, I mean, he got his hand up there so quick.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, he just like usually like a guy will be like this, and he just, man, his arm shot up. It's like when you know the answer in class in 8th grade, you don't call on me.
You're a try hard in school.
What's that?
You're a try hard in school.
Try hard?
Raising your hand all the time. Teacher, pick me.
Yeah, I don't think I really tried until 10th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, then I was like, you know what? I got to get my act together here.
Yeah, so
Call
that
on
wasn't a
me.
good play, but I think there's been like an emphasis on
Class,
that.
how many first downs did the Steelers have? Oh. Sorry.
I think it's been an emphasis from D-line coach Clint Hurt.
Yeah.
Throw a paw up there, get a batted pass.
Yeah.
It's a really big play. TJ Watson really good at that in his career. JJ Watt was always really good at that. Can't hurt.
Can't hurt. I get it.
Hurt. Clint Hurt. By the way, do you think there was a moment where Nick's kind of going after Jalen and then Clint Hurt gets in the way? Do you think Nick was like, well, maybe I'll go take a walk?
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, like, you don't want to see that, but it's good that they respect each other enough to have that conversation. It got a little heated, and
it happens. And
it
I understand why
happens.
Nick was angry.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
really dumb play.
Absolutely. And look, they have 20 cameras at these games, so they're going to pick up everything that happens on the sidelines.
Another little note: Isaiah Rodgers was the extra defensive back in on the dime package, and that was obviously when Slay was out there. So I think that's stripped from Avante too. It's been a rough go for him on
Down that
defense
punt,
this
though.
year.
He'll always
Yeah,
have
no, it was a good play, and like he's had to step in as a gunner now, and he had to do it in this game, even though they didn't really have many punts.
Yeah.
But Sidney Brown got hurt on the first play of the game, concussion. So that was scary, by the way. It looked like he was out.
Yeah, it looked that way.
Yeah.
He's had a tough year. He got back from that long rehab, and got hurt again. Now he has this, but I still like the player. I think he's gonna help this team.
I have some early snap counts from Pro Football Focus for the defense. Uh, Nolan Smith played 41 of 43 snaps.
Wow.
He's been the guy. Like he's the last 3 weeks, he's overtaken Josh Sweat.
How many Sweaty play?
Sweat was at
34.
28.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think that it was because they looked at Josh Sweat and said, like, he's effective right now. We saw what happened last year when they overloaded him. Don't overload him. And I think that's what they're doing. I think they looked at Nolan and thought he can handle a bigger workload, and that's what they've done.
That's fair.
Yeah, Josh Sweat played 28. Jalen Carter played 39 of 43. Milton Williams played 31. Jordan Davis, 18. Moro Ojima, 11. Thomas Booker just 1.
Okay.
Yep. Zach Bond, 43 every snap.
Yeah.
Nakobe, 40 of 43.
CJ every snap?
Yeah, it was CJ, Reed Blankenship, and Quinion, and Zach Bond, all 43.
It's a fun defense, and they'll probably have 2 Pro Bowlers. I would think Jalen Carter and
Zach Bond?
Zach Bond.
At least, I mean, I think there's a chance for Quinion. I think he's playing at that level.
I do too, but I don't know if a rookie can make it without any interceptions.
Maybe not.
I think Blankenship, has been really good.
I think it's a good thing that players and coaches vote now.
Yeah. But I just think there's something about a defense that doesn't have a ton of Pro Bowlers, but they're like the best defense in the league.
Mhm.
It's just such a
So
team,
sound.
such a unit. They play so well together. They communicate. I think that's the strength of this defense is just the group.
I agree with that. Oh, you know what? I didn't see the Jalix Hunt snaps. Where was he? 17.
My bold prediction was Jalen Hunt sack.
Oh, you went with Jalix.
No, you know what? I went with Morrow. That's
Okay.
right. I should probably go with Jalix. I would have lost
Yeah,
either
way.
way.
Yeah.
But I mean snap wise. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Anything else defensively you want to talk about?
No.
Special teams real quick. Cooper Jean fumbled. You don't want to fumble. He fumbled. It happens.
Yeah.
It was a tough moment, but the defense, and he's part of it, bailed them out.
Yeah. It's a rookie lesson. Don't fight for an extra yard when you have 8 guys around you. Just
Man, Pittsburgh's really like.
But then he bounced back and he had a 22 yarder.
Yeah, it was a nice return.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is like always looking to punch the ball out.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Sometimes like teams get too into that and they like lose tackle form because they're trying to punch it out, but they've been pretty good at just like punching while tackling.
Yeah.
Jake Elliott made his field goal.
Made couple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what did he make?
Extra points.
He was 34 and 41.
Yeah, and then he made a 49-yarder that didn't count.
Yeah.
I was afraid they were going to take that off the scoreboard and he was going to miss the shorter one.
Mm-hmm.
You were too, right?
Yeah, I thought, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But credit to him. And like at the time, obviously, you had to take the penalty. That was such so this is kind of weird. So Zach Berman is a pool reporter, and the Pittsburgh folks asked him to ask about the fight early on, which I understand that. They asked him to ask about the penalty, then unnecessary roughness on the field goal. It's like that was pretty obvious. They hit the long snapper.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that.
You can't do that. Yeah.
I don't think they needed clarification on it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Anything else special teams? Bad punt from Brady Man, but it happens.
29-yarder.
Yeah, it was gross. It was a bad punt.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
There's nobody that suffers bad special teams play more than you do, and I appreciate that. Missed field goals, bad punts, fumbles on returns.
The Commanders won today. So
did you see the end of that game?
No, I didn't actually. I was
so the Saints.
On the field.
The Saints were down 7, and they scored with like 3 seconds left.
Oh, I did see that. They went for the 2-pointer.
Went for 2.
Yeah.
So
that would have been big for the Eagles. They could have won the division today.
They would have.
If they win next week, they win the division.
Yeah. So not an easy game. Washington's played well. They're a weird team. Like they I don't really know how good they are. They had a little, they had a stretch where you thought maybe they were, let's say they lost 3 in a row to the Steelers, Eagles, and Cowboys. You're starting to think maybe the rookie quarterback is coming back to earth, but then they beat the Titans and the Saints, um, down in New Orleans that game was. So I think the Eagles will shut them down the last road game.
What do you think the line is?
I'm bad at that stuff. I don't know.
3.5.
Really?
Eagles 3.5. Yeah.
That would have been wrong. I would have said more than that. But I don't know these things. Like,
It does feel a little light.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know what the line's telling you. People would always say that, like friends of mine who are like into that stuff. You know what the line's telling you. I'm like, no, I don't. I really don't. I don't know what the line's telling me.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought it. We'll see if that moves. I
Yeah.
would think it's going to move more Eagles.
We'll see.
All right. Got anything else from today? Saw Brian Westbrook down in the field. Good
Yeah,
to see
saw
him.
B-Dub.
Saw Malcolm Jenkins.
Good to see him. I didn't see Malcolm. Do you see Ricky Waters? He was here.
I saw him on the big screen. I did not see him in person.
Okay. Yeah.
Good flyover.
Oh, I missed that.
During
I hate
the
missing
anthem.
that.
It's tough. Sometimes it's tougher to see it in the press box though, because you have the overtop.
Yeah.
I like a good flyover though.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm into, I love that stuff. I don't know how they time it. Like,
Sometimes it's not always perfect.
yeah. Like right when rockets red glare, there come the fighter jets. Like, how do they I don't know.
No,
And also there's like an airport right there. Like, how do they plan all that? Like,
you just get clearance.
get clearance,
Have you been
Clarence.
following this drone story in New Jersey?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I haven't seen one yet.
Really?
All my friends have seen one. I haven't seen one. Maybe they're avoiding me
You feel left out?
a little bit. Yeah. At practice
Well, I'll try to
on
make my voice
Friday,
drone.
there was a bald eagle flying overhead.
Really?
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought you say there's a drone flying overhead.
No, a bald eagle.
I think we've covered everything from drones to bald eagles.
All right, let's wrap this up. No questions today. We'll get to them on Tuesday. If you have one for us, it's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. That's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. You have that QR code. You can scan that, send it that way. This is also a reminder, you guys, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Rube, do you have any final thoughts?
No, good win. And I do have a final thought. They can see their way to to winning their last 13, which would be an incredible achievement. You hope you go into that Giants game and don't need it if things fall their way, but that probably won't happen. It's been a long time since they lost a football game, and that's really impressive.
My final thought is Carson Wentz got in the Chiefs game, and his first play, he was tackled by Jordan Hicks.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Did Mahomes get hurt?
Yes.
So Carson's gonna be their guy from here on out.
We'll see. Wouldn't that be something if Carson leads a team as a backup to a Super Bowl?
It'd be like a mirror image of 17.
Yeah. All right, that's all we have time for today. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.